Well, hello, I made it across. Didn't get easy. Oh, stuck on these islands here. Oh, beautiful.
Yesterday, Parliament members in the British House of Commons passed a civil rights bill designed to protect Britain's Negroes and Asians against discrimination in housing and jobs.
August 1968. Miss August. Well, here's an interview. Playboy interview. William Sloane Coffin. Don't know who that is. A candid conversation with the embattled chaplain of Yale and Vietnam War critic tried for counseling young men to violate the draft laws. So let's take a little read of this, okay? So I could read this. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. One of those anointed few over the age of 30 who can and do communicate with the nation's young is William Sloane Coffin, chaplain of Yale University, a leader for several years in the movement against the war in Vietnam. Coffin became even more prominent, notorious, some uptight adults would say, when he was indicted by the federal government in January of this year. On charges of conspiring to counsel young men to violate the draft laws. Co-defendants are Dr. Benjamin Spock, writer Mitchell Goodman, Harvard University graduate student Michael Ferber, and Marcus Raskin, co-director of the Institute for Policy Studies in Washington. The trial began in Boston as this issue went to press. Whether the charges will stick remains to be seen, but the 43-year-old clergyman has indeed supported those who resist the draft, and he still does. Controversial on campus long before the current furor, Coffin has become an even stormier petrel since his indictment. After reading your nauseating article about publicity hound, Coffin wrote one alumnus to the Yale Alumni magazine. I threw up, then burned my alumni fund contribution card. Please send future issues of your magazine in a plain wrapper. I don't want anyone to know, not even the mailman. Kingman Brewster, president of Yale, has publicly disagreed with Coffin's position on draft resistance, but adds, I feel that the quality of the Yale educational experience and the Yale atmosphere has gained greatly from his presence, thanks in large part to his personal verve and social action. Religious life within and without the church reaches more people at Yale than on any other campus I know about. More important, the rebellious instinct, which elsewhere expresses itself so often in sour withdrawal, cynical nihilism, and disruption, is here more often than not both affirmative and constructive, thanks in considerable measure to the chaplain's influence. This spring, Coffin's appointment as chaplain was renewed on a permanent basis, but with a proviso, as stated by Brewster, that the corporation might want to review the appointment when the lawsuit is terminated if it seemed that the final judgment had some bearing on the chaplain's fitness for his duties. In contrast to this equivocal endorsement by the school administration, 640 Yale faculty members, including 16 deans, 25 department chairmen, and 8 college masters, have issued a statement in his support. And on college campuses throughout the country, Coffin draws even larger and more enthusiastic crowds than before his arrest, not only because he is a strikingly effective speaker, but also because he comes through strongly as a man of tested integrity who is wholly free of self-righteousness. A typical account of a Coffin appearance was carried in the Providence Evening Bulletin in March on the occasion of a speaking engagement at Brown University. As Mr. Coffin began his public appearance yesterday in Meehan Auditorium, about an eighth of the 3,000 Brown students stood to applaud him. When he left the rostrum, all stood to applaud. Coffin's background could hardly be more unlikely for so formidable an opponent of the government. Born in New York, the son of the late Vice President of W&J SLOANE, the posh Fifth Avenue furniture store, Coffin grew up a part of the Eastern establishment. After graduation from Phillips Academy in 1942, he served with distinction as a captain in the Army Paratroop Corps until the end of the World War II. It wasn't until after VJ Day that he committed his first act of civil disobedience. Assigned as liaison officer to the Russian army, Coffin was ordered to return Russian deserters to the Soviets. The first one I brought back, Coffin has told a reporter for the New York Times, they shot on the spot. After that, I never gave them back another one. Despite this defiance of authority, Coffin returned to the Eastern establishment. He completed his undergraduate work at Yale, spent a year at Union Theological Seminary, and then joined the Central Intelligence Agency shortly after the outbreak of the Korean War. When he came home again following 3 years' service as a CIA agent, Coffin finished his divinity studies, was ordained in the Presbyterian Church in 1956, and served as chaplain at Phillips Academy and at Williams College before he was appointed chaplain at Yale, where he gave an inkling of things to come by making his first pastoral rounds on a motorcycle.